Hey, everybody. Welcome to Takeoff with John Clark. And let's bring in our special guest. We've got a lot to talk about with the Phillies having arguably the best starting staff in baseball. Let's welcome in former Phillies reliever Dan Plesac. And he matches the longest running member of the MLB Network, the show he started on 16 years ago. What a run for you, huh, Dan?
Yeah, John, you know what? I was thinking about that the other day when I was driving in. Like, I've seen just about everything. When this building, I came here in December of 2008, about a month before the studio was going to launch. Went into Studio 42, Studio 3. They were nothing but dark walls. There wasn't anything up. And literally 2 months later, you have Studio 42, looks like a baseball field. Studio 3, an homage to Babe Ruth. It's amazing. Yeah, it's been 16 years. It's gone by really fast.
And you're now on the national pregame show every day at 5 o'clock. But I got to ask you about this list you came out with. Top 25 starting pitchers in baseball. Now, to be fair to you, you did it right before July 1st to be ready for July 1st.
I did.
Zack Wheeler, 8.
Well, listen, I came prepared. All right. I knew this was coming, John. Okay. When I put the list together, I have a dry erase board about 4 days before the end of the month. And me and the research guys here at MLB, the first top 10 is pretty easy. You could figure out. The tough part of the list is like 15 to 25. Okay. So as I was putting this list together a couple of days before, there were some guys. Hunter Brown was throwing the ball really good. Framber Valdez was on a terrific run. And then Zach missed a little bit of that time on a paternity leave. And so I have to be honest with you. As soon as I put the list out, I felt really good about it too. Like, I'm one of those guys. I can tell you this in confidence. Well, it's not confidence that we're talking about it, but I had Max Fried at number 2, and then he had that clunker. And so I'm like, okay, I've got to make a move here, and I've got to move him from number 2, and I've got to move Skeens up. 5 minutes after the list was out, and I'm feeling pretty good about it, one of our researchers got in my ear on the show and said, love the list, but you have Wheeler way too down on the list. And he was the one guy that, like, I listen, every time I put that list out, there's one or two guys that I'm like, I either rated too high or rated too low. And I knew it. As soon as the researcher said it, I thought, okay, I had all the numbers, all the data to back up, the top 5, why I liked them. And then Wheeler goes out and he strikes out 10, doesn't allow any runs, and he makes me look bad. But listen, when Zack Wheeler makes me look bad because of this, I'll gladly take it. I will say this, and I've said it on MLB Tonight. Today, if you told me my life was on the line and I had to win a game, who would I want starting it? It would be Zack Wheeler, because to me, he is the best pitcher in the game when you combine power, pitchability. He's a pitcher, not a thrower. And where he's come since the first year putting a Phillies uniform on, because the knock on him was he couldn't stay healthy, a little bit inconsistent in the strike zone. He's about as good as it gets. And listen, I got the gloves on for a reason. I know South Philly's a tough place. I don't have a mouthpiece. I'm going to go buy one at the local sporting goods store. And I know this, I'm going to need these the next time I go to the bank, because I think I'm going to be caught with a bunch of haymakers.
But you know what, Dan? The way Philly operates, maybe they will thank you, because Zack Wheeler then goes out, pitches a complete game, only has one base runner. It's kind of like Jalen Hurts with all these lists. It kind of feeds him. And it motivates him, and he's admitted it. It's no secret, he says. It motivates him. So he basically is saying, keep doubting me. So you know what? Maybe Philly wants you to keep doubting Zack Wheeler.
John, that's easy for you to say, because you're not going to walk by the Harry Callis statue, and when you have to walk in and you're going to have to deal with those angry fans, it might be good for Zach, but it's not going to be good for me.
I would love to see you show up at the ballpark with those gloves. You said it. You said if you had one game to win in baseball, you're saying American League and National League, one game to win, the guy on the mound you want is Zack Wheeler?
Yeah, I mean, it would probably, in my opinion, be a virtual tie between him and Tarek Skubal. But I go back to last year. In that series against the Mets, he did all he could do to put the Phillies in a chance to win. And that was a Mets team that was on a roll, too. And he pitched 7 scoreless. He's as good as anybody in baseball right now. You can make the case, and I know Tiger fans are like Scoobles on another planet. And when you look at the numbers, you could say so. But I still think when push comes to shove, if I had to win a game, and that's why I think the Phillies are going to go on a big run this postseason, because Zack Wheeler just breathes different air than most pitchers. He just does. He's that good.
All right, you just said you think the Phillies are going to go on a big run, and that leads me back to last year when you lose game 1 to the Mets when your ace Zack Wheeler pitches that way. There's concern about the offense again. Now, I know offense is down in baseball. Home runs are down by, 13% this year, and the Phillies are down. But are you concerned about the Phillies lineup and giving these guys support?
No, John, I think what's going to boil down to when the calendar flips to the month of October, what it's been since Brad Lidge, it's going to be about the bullpen. Last year, that bullpen was as rock solid as you could get going towards the end of the season, right? Strom was throwing great. Alvarado was throwing great. They had everything going. And listen, there isn't a facet of that Phillies game that is going to be more under pressure than the bullpen when October starts. And it's been the case. And you go back a couple of years ago when they lost that series to the Diamondbacks, they were in the driver's seat. They let that last game get away, game 5 in Arizona, that they should have won. Then you feel like, okay, we have 2 games at home to win at the bank. And it's going to be about the bullpen. I think if the Phillies, when the postseason starts, they get Wheeler to throw well, they get Ranger Suarez to throw well, Christopher Sanchez to throw well, the bank is going to be on edge when that door opens for the bullpen in the 8th and 9th inning. If that bullpen pitches well when the postseason starts, I think they're going to go on a run, and they can win the whole thing. It's not far-fetched. The lineup, I think once they get Harper back consistently in that lineup, they're going to hit again. Listen, they're an intimidating team to play. They just are, particularly at Citizens Bank Ballpark. But to me, their season's going to boil down to, when the playoffs start, how does that bullpen fare in the 8th and, more importantly, the 9th inning?
I know you say that, but like last year against the Mets, game 1, they didn't get enough offense. And in those 2 games against the Diamondbacks at home, they were chasing pitches. They weren't being, let's just say, smart at the plate. And the offense let them down. And we've kind of seen this a couple times now.
Yeah. You know, I look at it this way from the point of view of spending my life pitching into that bullpen. The bottom line is this: whether it was 2-0 or 12-10, the Phillies had a lead in game 1, a 2-run lead going into the 8th inning of that game. Now, you could say, hey, this is offense. We should have scored 7 or 8 runs. But if the Phillies had a 12-10 lead in game 1, you wouldn't be talking about the offense. It boils down to the bullpen. Listen, playoff baseball is just different. You're not going to most of the time, you're not going to win a lot of games 8-7. And across the board in the postseason, offense is normally down. It's fairly simple. You're seeing a lot of 1s and 2s. There's a lot more intensity. There's a lot more pressure in those games than there are in the regular season game. If the Phillies bullpen performs well, they'll be playing well into the month of October.
All right, so think about this. You might have a surplus of starting pitching with Wheeler, Ranger, Sanchez, Luzardo, Aaron Nola returning sometime in August, hopefully, and then the possibility of Andrew Painter. When I add that up, I think that's 6. So is there any chance that you would trade a member of the starting staff to get an exceptional reliever?
Yes. And,
really?
And yes, I get it. I look at it this way. I'm not saying the window's closing, but Real Muto and Schwarber are free agents at the end of the year. So if you want to look at it, if you're Dave Dombrowski, you always have to look at it long term. You try to look past 2025. But I think if they have a chance to secure a legitimate guy, like let's say they could pull a trigger and get a guy like Mason Miller from the A's. Now, the A's probably don't want to deal Mason Miller, but let's say hypothetically, that's the kind of guy you want to get. I think the thing that I always guard against is you don't want to give up the farm for a guy that you think, okay, is like he's better than what we have. Is the guy a difference maker? A lot of teams were talking about Helsley, the closer for the Cardinals. Had a powerhouse year last year. He's been good this year, but not great this year. And then a lot of teams, and hear a lot about the Nationals with Finnegan. I like him, but I think if you're the Phillies, you're looking for a guy that, listen, it's an 8-inning game. We're going to turn it over to this guy in the 9th inning. Now, I don't know if that kind of guy is available, but I think if that guy is, and you may have to give up one of these starting pitchers that you have, that might be the price that you pay. I do know this. If the postseason goes as it went in 2023 and as it went last year, and you look at that bullpen as a weak link, that's why I thought the Alvarado suspension was big for this team. Even if you get him back, say they get him back for the month of September, you can't have him in the postseason. So there's a void there. And I know they tried to address it, bringing in Jordan Romano, and Romano wasn't the answer. Two things can happen, in my opinion, John. You either hope somebody gets hot as hell and you can ride that guy out, or if you don't think you have that guy, you've got to go try to find that guy. When you're a team like the Phillies, if you're a fringe team that's happy to make the postseason, you get in and you're the wild card team like the Royals were last year, like the Guardians, they got in, but can they really win the whole thing? But I think there are like 6 legitimate teams that can win it all, and the Phillies are definitely one of those 6.
So would you more likely make a trade for a bullpen piece or maybe a left fielder or a bat in the lineup, specifically the outfield, most likely?
Bullpen piece.
Yeah.
I like the lineup, love the starting pitching. There's so many things to like about this team. Listen, no team is perfect. You have a team out west. I just was in L.A., did 3 White Sox-Dodgers games. I mean, that lineup is as good as it gets. But the Dodgers have all kind of pitching problems, and serious ones, starting pitching ones. Yamamoto only went 2/3 of an inning the other night. And Glasnow is going to hopefully come back. Who knows when Blake Snell's coming back? They have some real issues. I look at it this way. The Phillies have a leg up on everybody because if you look at it, you think, okay, if they pitch the way they're supposed to pitch, they should have 6 or 7 innings covered in most of the postseason games because their starting pitching is so strong.
All right, let's say you are not able to add to the bullpen and get that stud reliever that you're talking about. You have a surplus of starting pitching. Is there a chance you would move one of those starting pitchers to the bullpen?
I get where you're going. Like a guy like Abel, right? A guy that has a big arm. Do you take a guy that has that kind of arm, put him in a bullpen? I think it's too much of an ask for a young pitcher. I don't know if any of the starting pitchers for the Phillies. I hate to lean into this new school thinking, but it does play. Like you're looking for swing and miss in the 8th and 9th, and you're looking for strikeout guys. You're looking for keeping the ball out of play. And I don't know if the Phillies have one of those guys outside of Zack Wheeler. You said, hey, let's put Zack Wheeler in pitch. That's not going to happen. It's just not feasible. You would never do that. I don't know if they have that guy in the rotation that's a guy that says, okay, take your 2, forget about the 3rd and 4th pitch. Take the 2 you have, the fastball, the breaking ball, or split, and use that in the 9th inning. This team's built on starting pitching. Make no bones about it, and that's why they're where they're at and why they've been so successful. They have a surplus of it, but I don't know if they have that gunslinger guy in that rotation that, hey, can we take him out of there? We can replace him. We'll put him in the bullpen. I don't know if that guy's there. So one or two things are going to happen, in my opinion. One of these relievers is going to have to get hot in the month of September, and you ride him out, or you're trying to find a solution outside the organization.
Yeah, and obviously here in Philly, there was a lot of talk maybe a month ago about Ranger Suarez possibly going to the bullpen for the playoffs. But
can't
with the
do
way
that.
he's pitching.
No. Listen, I think the bigger the games, the better Ranger Suarez is. I mean, that guy, he has like 0 heartbeat. I mean, you watch him pitch, he's like the left-handed version of Greg Maddux. Totally under control, doesn't get rattled. I think the more the stakes are higher, where hitters get anxious the more they feed right into his game. He throws the great changeup. He moves the ball up, down, in, and out. He'll flip a slow curveball. And then just when you think he's a soft tossing lefty, he'll start pumping it up there 94, 95. Man, he has all the weapons. The best part about Ranger Suarez is September and October, because that's when he pitches his best baseball.
And you're going to be at the All-Star game every day, Monday, Tuesday, 5 p.m. on MLB Network. Do you think the Phillies had a snub or two in that rotation with Ranger and Christopher Sanchez not being named All-Stars?
I do. But this is the thing. When every team has to have a representative, it makes it very difficult, right? You could make a case. Shane Smith of the White Sox had to have a representative. This is a guy with an ERA just over 4 right now. Every year in the All-Star game, there's 3 or 4 pitchers that don't make it, and position players in each league that you could make a case to say, why is this guy not on the team? And you're dead on. All 3 more than likely deserve to go, but it's hard to take 3 pitchers. And then when you look at it and say, okay, we have 3 starting pitchers, and then what goes into that too, you're forecasting, when are those guys going to pitch? If they're pitching late Saturday or Sunday, they're probably not going to be available to pitch in the game on Tuesday, and that adds to it too.
Yeah, now you said Zack Wheeler would be your one guy to win a game. So will he move up? Where would he be right now if you could redo your list? Now, you don't need to get the boxing gloves back out. We're just having
2.
fun.
He would be number 2. He
Okay.
would be 2. And I know I would catch a lot of heat from Pirate fans, but when you look at the innings that he's pitched more innings than Paul Skeens. He would be number 2. I just got caught in a bad spot. I was going to a timeline, and Zack Wheeler happened to, like in the last 3 or 4 days, made me look very bad. I'm going to have to probably apologize to him, at the All-Star game. The funny part about this list, John, is it's crazy the response that I get. So Spencer Strider was throwing the ball really well 2 years ago. I mean, he was on a hellacious run. And I had him at number 5 in July. And I get a text message, and I have no idea who it is. And it says, Strider 5? You must be thinking you're picking his brother. And I'm like, who the hell is this? It was Rick Krenitz, the pitching coach of the Braves. So listen, and the funny part about it is I put this list together, and if I don't, I get the one team I get crucified the most by are Mariners fans, because they think all of their pitchers should be in the top 25. And I had Brian Wu on, and I had him down in the low teens, high teens, almost 20, just got torched on it. But I will say this, I take a lot of grief when the list comes out, but I have never taken more grief than I did July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th from angry Phillies fans. And you know what? I deserve it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take the gloves off, John. I'm going to put my hands behind my back and let every South Philly fan go ahead and take a shot at me.
You could actually raise some good money for charity with that. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Would you take Zack Wheeler, Christopher Sanchez, Ranger Suarez, that threesome, or Roy Halladay, Cliff Lee, and Cole Hamels to win a series? Now, look, it's not really a question because numbers are down now, offensive numbers. I was just looking at their ERAs, and, maybe they're up, 3.00, something like that. But numbers are down. So the ERA is looking better.
Yeah, I would take Halladay, Lee, and Hamels. I still think to this day, in the World Series in Yankee Stadium, the game that Cliff Lee pitched against the Yankees might have been the best pitch game in the postseason that I've seen in a long time, man. He took a really good lineup. That Yankee lineup could hit and made them look like little leaguers. So I would lean more towards give me Halladay, Lee, and Cole Hamels.
All right. And if you were to take one of those pitchers for a game you had to win, which one are you choosing?
Had to win it. All things considered, guys healthy. Let's put them all okay, they're all healthy and in their prime. Give me Roy Halladay.
Doc.
Yeah. He was, I got to tell you, I was with the Blue Jays when he came up, and I was on a really good Blue Jays staff there. We had Roger Clemens, Pat Henkin, and I got done throwing in spring training the first day. And Mel Queen, the pitching coach, says, "Hey, why don't you hang around and watch these three kids throw and tell me what you think of them?" I'm like, okay. I watched Roy Halladay, Chris Carpenter, and Kelvin Escobar throw a bullpen session. And I looked at Mel Queen and was like, are you kidding me? And Roy Halladay, one of the best stories in all of baseball. I mean, he came up guns a-blazing, changed his arm angle to that low three-quarter delivery, sent all the way down to A-ball in Dunedin. And when you dive into numbers of Roy Halladay, the last couple of years in Toronto, in the beginning of Philadelphia, it's like video game like 230 innings. I mean, he posted up every 5 days. I'd have to take Roy Halladay. If all were healthy, brought their A game, give me some Doc.
Now, who could disagree with that? Now, we have had scars in Philly with that NLDS against the Cardinals where Doc pitched his butt off and the Phillies didn't provide. I think it was 1-0, right?
Right. Chris Carpenter, They were two old friends debuted against each other. Yes.
Yeah, 1-0. And then we had the shutout, no hitter.
Yes.
No hit in the World Series, and then the Diamondbacks, and then last year with the Bats. So that's why Philly, you might need to get out the boxing gloves a little bit here too, because that's why there's scars here in Philly, because we've had the great starting pitching, but sometimes the bats have just gone cold in the biggest moments.
I get it. I understand. But I go back to 2023, and I know that they should have won Game 5 in Arizona. And I really believe this. I don't have the data to prove it, and it's hypothetical thinking. Last year, if they win Game 1 and they have a 2-0 lead against the Mets, that series is over quick. They have momentum. The bullpen feels good about itself because all eyes were on that bullpen. In the 8th and 9th inning, it fell apart. And from that point on, it was like, oh, hell, here we go again. And it might happen again this year. So Game 1, big game. It gets to the 8th. It gets to the 9th. Whoever that guy is, I don't know who it's going to be. It's going to be Kerkering. I don't know who that guy's going to be, the hot hand. But if that guy presents order and they get through a scoreless 8th and a scoreless 9th, you're going to see a big sigh of relief on the Philly fans and on that team. Listen, 2-0 or 10-8, they had a 2-run lead going into the 8th inning.
Yeah, and that's why this is going to be so fascinating to see how the rotation shakes out in the playoffs, because Aaron Nola won't be back till August. So there's a possibility that he does not start in the first series or two in the playoffs. And then Andrew Painter, he could be back in a few weeks, and they have said he will no doubt be a starter. But you could make an argument with the way he can throw it that he would look good in the bullpen in the playoffs.
John, the Philadelphia Phillies are the best position team starting pitching going into the second half and into the postseason. All you need when you get in is two good starters, because with the days off in between in these series now, you have two good starters. The Phillies have four. They're so ahead of the game. More than likely, this World Series run, this postseason run, it's not going to be about the starting pitching. It's going to be about the bullpen, and can they cut down on the swing and miss and put the ball in play in the month of October.
All right, well, you've thrown some haymakers, haymaker after haymaker with the bullpen, so you've beat it into my mind. I'm submitting. So, final question for you. Do you think this is the year that Zack Wheeler wins the Cy Young?
Yes, because you know what? He has a lot of momentum going into the All-Star break, and I think he's going to have a powerhouse second half of the season. And if he's ever going to win it, I think this is going to be the year that he wins it.
And, you know, looking at the stats, what do you place as like the biggest stat? Would it be WHIP? Would it be opponent's batting average? Would it be ERA? Because, you know, he is better than Paul Skeens as far as opponent's batting average and WHIP, and obviously wins, but that's sometimes not fair. Okay,
this is, I'm going to give you the scale that I use to me that it's important. Number one is innings pitched. It's a decider. Number two is hits per 9. how many hits do you allow per 9 innings? So 1 would be innings, 2 would be hits per 9, and the third one for me would be strikeout to walk ratio. Those paint a great picture. Can you pitch well during the long haul? Do you take the ball every 5 days? Do you limit the amount of contact, solid contact? And then how many guys you strike out to how many you walk? I don't care if you strike out 12, but if you walk 10, that's a lot of base runners per 9 innings.
All right, well, let's hope Zack Wheeler continues on the run he is on. We're looking forward to August 1st, your list that comes out, and we'll see where Zack Wheeler is, and you can put away the boxing gloves then.
Yeah. And I will tell you this, John. I'm immediately, when we are done, I'm going to the local sporting goods store, and I will not walk into the bank. I will have a mouthpiece and one of those headgears because, listen, I know I'm going to take some shots, but I've got a glass jaw, John, so I would be decked early.
Cut me. Another Rocky story. We look forward to seeing you not only late night for the games on MLB Network, but every day at 5 o'clock, the national pregame show with Harold Reynolds and Greg Amsinger. And then you're going to be there from the All-Star game at 5 o'clock each day, Monday and Tuesday. Yeah,
the national pregame show Monday through Friday, 5 to 7. I'll be in Atlanta for the Home Run Derby coverage on MLB Network, and I'll be there for the All-Star game on the pregame show and the postgame show. So who knows? Maybe I'll be interviewing Zack Wheeler afterwards, and maybe he'll deck me live on national TV.
People would pay money to see that.
In South Philly, they sure would, wouldn't they?
And by the way, like when Jalen Hurts was left off of Peyton Manning's, I believe, top 5 quarterbacks list, he got a text from Jalen Hurts. So I think you might get a little word from Zack Wheeler.
Oh, I probably will. But I'm going to stay ahead of the game, and I will be changing my cell phone number. I'll give the new one to you and hope that you don't give it to Zack Wheeler.
I might put it up at Citizens Bank Park.
I know you would do that.
Well, good stuff, Dan. Keep up the great work on MLB Network, and look forward to seeing you down the road in the playoffs because it's always incredible at Citizens Bank Park. We appreciate the time, man.
You got it. Thanks, John. Go Phillies.
Oh, mom, so flagrant.